Walnut is her bicycle helmet. Dana Perino, left 5. You got to hand it to the Russians. They're so Russian. According to the CIA, that big lovable bear of a country tampered with our elections to help Mr. Trump win. Now, there's no evidence of coordination. Without that, this is just suspicion. There may be proof that they tried to do it, but none that they succeeded. But let's be honest. How would we react if the situation were reversed and Hillary had won thanks to Putin? It would be all-out war around here. I ain't kidding. Trump would be screaming. And, of course, the media would dismiss it. That's the nature of team sport politics, which prevents us from seeing that a foreign power may have subverted our system. And we know that's wrong. But maybe we don't care that it's wrong because our side won. Trump. Who cares, right? Here's why you should. What else might the Russians have that they didn't release? They hacked to get Trump in. What did they hack to control him? But maybe it's not about control at all, but chaos. If Russia is shown to tamper with our election and one half of America demands a new election, you get demonstrations and riots and perhaps bloodshed. Russians do this stuff in their sleep. Look, it's fine to side with a bad guy to beat another bad guy. We sided with Russia to beat Hitler, and it might help in dealing with ISIS as well. But do you side with a bad guy to beat an American candidate? How truly ironic is that? To make America great again, we outsourced. So, Dana, welcome back to the show. It seems like months that you've been gone.
Did you miss me? No.
What is your name again? Is it possible in this day and age to look at this from a bipartisan perspective, or as team sport politics make it so that it's okay because Trump won? We're glad that Hillary isn't in there. Maybe Russia did us a favor. Can we not look at it that way, or is that how
I think that the professionals in government can do that. I know that there is some consternation by some Democrats who think that Mitch McConnell put up a roadblock. But he is saying that he's for an investigation and transparency as they could have it. And the thing is that we're a month from the election, and I do think that many Democrats are still refusing to believe what happened.
Yeah.
And I understand that they're smarting from the popular vote being 2.8 million, but the Electoral College was quite decisive. Now we have this Electoral College briefing for about the intelligence hack, and it's not. There's no way that the Electoral College is going to go against the wishes of their voters. So I'm for the professionals to get the briefing. I think that that's fine, but it's not going to change the outcome. It might be something to say that Russia interfered in the campaign in terms of propaganda or some sort of news. But there's no evidence, as far as I know, about hacking into any voting booth or any state system. So I think that is a little bit far-fetched. And I do think that if the Democrats are looking for a scapegoat, they have got to look at themselves. One of the big things was the blue wall in Wisconsin. They asked for a recount in a state where Hillary Clinton never once campaigned.
Right.
Didn't step foot in it once. So I think there's a lot of reasons that the Democrats lost. I don't think Russia was it.
Yeah. Eric, do you think it's sour grapes? Do you think we should look into this?
Well, you should always look into whether the Russians are hacking us on any level. But, where's the logic behind, let's see, the Russians hacked the RNC because they're trying to help Trump? I really don't get the logic there. That's been bandied about. The RNC said they weren't hacked. The FBI said the RNC was not hacked. I know the CIA has a different opinion, but the FBI themselves had the opinion that the RNC wasn't hacked. And it does seem like sour grapes. Now, first it was the recounts. The recounts weren't going to work. Let's try Russian hacking. That's not going to work. I have no idea what's next, but they only have 5 days to try and petition the Electoral College to change their votes. I agree with Dana. It's not going to happen. And last thought. Didn't Barack Obama himself belittle Mitt Romney when Mitt Romney said the Russians were a problem? Yep. And Barack said, no, the 80s want their foreign policy back. Right. Ha, ha, ha. And now he's trying to blame the Russians. Now he's trying to blame the Russians for Trump. The bottom line is American people voted. They've spoken. It's Trump.
Greg, this is an example of not sour grapes, but sour vodka. I mean, really, because think about it. There is absolutely no evidence to suggest, just as Dana pointed out, any kind of evidence of voter fraud or manipulation of polls or in terms of going to the polls and people casting votes that weren't counted, nothing whatsoever. What you have simply is you had a bad candidate against a good candidate, and you had the allegations here that the Russians tried to attack, the RNC, the DNC, and Podesta. So if you have bad cybersecurity, bad luck for you. You should do something better. This election turned against Hillary Clinton because she was a terrible candidate with many examples of misdeeds against the American people, including her own deleting of emails, withholding evidence, and repeatedly lying about it on the record. And that's why she was rejected by the American people.
This is one instance where the Russians didn't mess with the polls. Ebony?
Well done.
Yeah, I'll shoot myself later.
Yes, so I'm not at all interested in revisiting the election, like not at all. But I am interested in figuring out exactly and getting to the bottom of exactly what is happening around this Russian hacking possibility even. Let's talk about what we know. We know that this is very possible. We know our CIA is telling us something different, as Eric points out, than our FBI. So I think we have to flush that out, because I think it's very, very dangerous when we start ignoring what could be very critical facts simply because it doesn't fit very neatly into a pro-Trump narrative. And I'm saying this as someone who is not pro-Hillary Clinton, did not vote for Hillary Clinton, but is concerned with the well-being of America. So I think that's very, very important. And to something you said, Greg, in your intro around, is this working because it's an enemy of our enemy? Well, I just got back from Israel, and something that a general said there who's, fighting terrorism every day. We must remember the enemy of our enemy is not our friend. It's actually still our enemy. And that's very important.
What are you talking about? If it doesn't fit the pro-Trump narrative, we should ignore it.
Well, because a lot of people are attaching this, Eric, to let's not pay attention to this allegation because Trump won, and that's what's important. And I'm saying we need to separate the facts and the conclusions. So I'm not interested in the conclusion around, it twisted the election, and so thus we need to revisit the election results. I'm ready to accept completely Trump as our president. But I think that it's still important that we separate that part, the conclusionary part, from the facts around the hacking itself and the hacking into databases, whether it's the RNC, the DNC, Hillary Clinton, or what have you.
But the RNC and the FBI agree that they don't believe the RNC was hacked. So it's
but if the DNC was hacked, that's important too, I think.
Well, of course it is important if that in fact is the case.
It's the capability, right? It's the capability of Russia to go there.
You forget there is one other option here. It's not a hack, it's a leak. And no one has locked down the fact that it's definitely a hack and not someone disgruntled at the DNC.
I agree.
leaking.
And that's why, again, I think we're both saying that it's important to continue to get facts around it, fact gathering.
Oh, facts are too complicated, Dana. Do you want to hear from Donald Trump on this? Let's go.
I think it's ridiculous. I think it's just another excuse. I don't believe it. I don't know why. And I think it's just, they talked about all sorts of things. Every week it's another excuse. We had a massive landslide victory, as you know, in the Electoral College. I think the Democrats are putting it out because they suffered one of the greatest defeats in the history of politics in this country. And frankly, I think they're putting it out, and it's ridiculous. We ought to get back to making America great again.
That's what I have a problem with, by the way. Just that kind of dismissiveness of it's not important because I won and let's move on.
Well, and also it's what Lindsey Graham said. This hurts Hill today, but it could hurt us tomorrow. It could hurt you tomorrow with your emails. God knows what's in there.
This is true. This is true. I don't know what the intel community can provide to the American public that is not classified and in a way that could be looked at with the naked eye. Because to Ebony's point, there are some people saying, why would you even cover this? It's just fake news.
Right.
Okay. The intelligence community came up with a consensus, apparently. There is always, usually you're dealing with human beings, so you have disagreement, but consensus is consensus. And so I would love to know if they brought this to everybody before the election and there was a decision not to look into it, and now the Democrats are getting enough attention that they get the investigation that they wanted, it's still not going to change the result. No. But that is also an interesting thing too. Like, so what happened with the information at the time?
And what did they get? I mean, think about this for a second. What if they did in fact hack the RNC and the RNC didn't know? What did they get? They certainly didn't get anything that would sway a voter away from Trump. They might have reason to sway a voter towards Trump. I mean, it just feels like another desperate attempt by not only the liberals, not only Hillary, but the never-Trumpers, too. Some of the people who are calling for massive, hold off, let's make sure we get an investigation prior to this electoral college voting, seem like they're on that never-Trump bandwagon for a while.
And she didn't lose in her strongholds. She lost in the places that anything that came out that was negative against Hillary Clinton didn't actually harm her with her base.
Yeah.
She lost with the swing voters and in those important blue wall states.
Undecideds, yeah. The problem is that this really looks like just another attempt to delegitimize a huge victory on behalf of the Republican Party and the Trump movement, where he resoundingly defeated Hillary Clinton, including taking 200 counties that Barack Obama was able to win last time around. So this, I think, and outperforming in terms of African Americans and Latino community as well. So he exceeded all expectations that were set prior to going in to Election Day. And now you have Hillary complaining and using Jill as a surrogate. That didn't work. Those suits get dropped. Now they're going to complain about Russia. But Russia wasn't pulling the lever. The American people were.
Yeah, they just helped show how bad Hillary is. I think it's you got to look at it, because I do think it's about sowing discord. I don't know if it's about Trump winning. I don't think it's about Russia wanting Trump to win. It's just, can we mess with their elections? Because Russians like doing that stuff. I know.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
It's close to home.
Yes. Up next, the president-elect still hasn't named his Secretary of State, but there's already an uproar over the guy he's rumored to have chosen, ExxonMobil chief Rex Tillerson, when the Five returns.
Well, still no decision yet on who President-elect Donald Trump will nominate for Secretary of State, but the word is he's leaning towards Rex Tillerson, chairman of ExxonMobil. Mr. Trump won't confirm or deny he settled on Tillerson, but he did make a case on Fox News Sunday for why the businessman would make a great diplomat.
He's much more than a business executive. I mean, he's a world-class player. He's in charge of, I guess, the largest company in the world. He's in charge of an oil company that's pretty much double the size of his next nearest competitor. It's been a company that's been unbelievably managed. And to me, a great advantage is he knows many of the players, and he knows them well. He does massive deals in Russia. He does massive deals for the company, not for himself, for the company.
Well, the president-elect refers to Tillerson's deal-making experience with Russia as an asset, but there are mixed reactions to the Secretary of State contender's relationship with Putin. Listen.
It is a terrible idea. We're suckers for the Russians. I'm afraid the president-elect is being suckered. And I do not trust anybody who has done mega-billion-dollar deals with Putin's government. You can't do business with Putin's Russia without getting dirty. It can't be done. And I want to see somebody who puts America's interests in front of those of ExxonMobil.
Frankly, when he has the endorsement of Bob Gates, Condi Rice, and Jim Baker, as we would say at the agency, we'd have a lot of time for this guy. I know him only by reputation, which is really quite strong. And I get the question about the relationship with Putin, but I do believe we can get beyond that.
Okay, Dana, let's start with you. Look, I see the guy as thoughtful, straightforward, very strategic, 75,000 employees, 200 companies. He ran a big business that could be perceived as almost running a country. General Hayden likes him, but Ralph Peters doesn't.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that this is an interesting and good pick. And I thought it was interesting also that Secretary Condoleezza Rice and Defense Secretary Robert Gates, people that are well known in the international community, have said this would be a really good pick for you. And Donald Trump listened to that, right? Mm-hmm. So they must have had a really good meeting and move forward. My sense is that on the right, the concern is about Russia. Understand that, and they'll have hearings and they'll see if they can get beyond it. I think that the left's real concern is not Russia. That's an excuse. Their concern is climate change and fossil fuels. So this is just an excuse for them to be able to try to block somebody or be against somebody, not because of the real issue that they say, but the underlying issue for them is always climate change.
And that is one of the knocks right now. ExxonMobil had some issues with climate change. Is this something that Rex Tillerson might have a hard time getting through Senate confirmation with? I would think. Well, I think there's a couple of senators who
it's possible.
There's some Republican senators who have already expressed concern for whatever reason, whether it's climate change
yeah,
or
but you
Russia.
might get some Democrats from states that will support him, like in West Virginia.
So Manchin may.
Yeah.
Does he have the support?
Who was also there at Trump transition? Look, I think it's a strong pick. When you have my attention when you say that Condoleezza Rice supported him. In fact, it was her recommendation, and then the president-elect was open-minded, said, "I'm interested in the best people to put forward and make perhaps unconventional picks that he feels will best serve the interests of this country going forward." And he's a very interesting choice because of, yes, his focus also with energy independence for the United States. The pushback will be, of course, issues perhaps people that are concerned about climate change. They won't love this choice. But it's up for the president-elect to do what's in the best interest of the country. And if he feels this is someone that has the decision-making, the steady hand, the ability to have resources throughout the world internationally and know the big players, that can work to the advantage of America in foreign fields. And also, depending on who you have in the second spot as deputy, somebody strong like Ambassador Bolton, that might work very well together.
Greg, when you're running ExxonMobil, you're doing business in 200
countries. I did 10 years ago.
Right. And when you were running ExxonMobil, like you,
Fair
no,
time.
but in all sincerity, you're dealing with the heads of state of some of the most unfriendly lands, some people who frankly hate us, and somehow you're able to strike a business deal with some of these countries and these people. That's got to, I would see that as a positive. Am I wrong?
Talk about a high energy person. He orders, know what I mean? Yeah. I'll never run out of gas. I never heard of
Either will you.
No, well, that is so true. I'm changing my diet, Kimberly.
I know.
I never heard of the guy. Can I be honest? I never heard of him until I heard of him. And I think that's part of the strategy. It's got to drive the other candidates nuts because he's like Cinderella showing up and the slipper fits and the bitter stepsisters of Giuliani, Christie and Romney are like, what about me? I thought I was the guy. And then this guy walks in and, there it goes. He's a slick dude.
Yeah, I gotcha. Oil slick. Gotcha.
Ebony, he can go all day like that.
Here's how I look at it. If you can get a Rex Tillerson, the guy started with Exxon, his whole career has been at Exxon, a profoundly immense businessman, to run your State Department, isn't that a win for an administration?
Well, I'll agree with you here, Eric. The ability to broker a good deal, I think, is critically important for a Secretary of State. So I like that. But getting back to this notion of he knows the players, right? I think generally speaking, that sounds very good. But with knowing them means you've got pre-existing relationships with the players. And so my concern, which I think would be alleviated at the Senate confirmation process, is what do those relationships really look like? And what is his ability to kind of make sure that first and foremost at all times is the best interest of America in the world stage, not letting some of those
influence,
operating, making sure that those pre-existing relationships have no effect and no influence, which I think is quite difficult. But again, I'm sure I trust our Senate to take care of it.
Can Rex Tillerson separate ExxonMobil past to the United States of America future?
Well, absolutely. He's an American. He wants to serve his country. He's willing to serve. He's dedicated most of his life to the corporate world. And at Exxon, you don't get to be CEO of Exxon just like on a whim. Like you work your way up through the company.
It's not like a favor.
And no, I think that he absolutely could separate.
And I do trust that he can separate it. I guess again, I'm concerned about the relationship. Because like if I have a relationship with you, right, then I don't have a new one just because I have a new job. Like our relationship is our relationship.
Vice President Dick Cheney, who had separated from his former company, what was the name of that? Halliburton. Years before, had no financial ties to it at all. Years later, it still followed him around everywhere because that was the left's favorite thing. So there always is going to be an anti-corporate America bent, but I do think he'll get confirmed, and they'd probably be surprised. And he'll be a good manager for the State Department.
And if he knows all of these people, he knows their good points, he knows their bad side, he's less likely to be outsmarted, and there's less of a learning curve if he has pre-existing relationships. I'll take that any day.
He has an order of friendship from Putin, which is a big deal because that, Steven Seagal doesn't have that. And he's got it, and that means that they won't kill you. So he's safe.
Okay, good.
Thank you for that interpretation.
We'll leave it right there.
As President-elect, Donald Trump's entitled to a daily intelligence brief to keep him updated on threats and other sensitive matters. But according to reports, he's chosen to only receive them once a week. He's been taking some heat for that, but dismissed the concerns on Fox News Sunday.
First of all, these are very good people that are giving me the briefings. And I say, if something should change from this point, immediately call me. I'm available on 1 minute's notice. I don't have to be told, I'm like a smart person. I don't have to be told the same thing and the same words every single day for the next 8 years. I do say, if something should change, let us know. But I don't need to be told, Chris, the same thing every day, every morning, same words. Sir, nothing has changed. Let's go over it again.
So, Greg, I think it's a little bit unfortunate that this is playing out in public because I think the intelligence community and Donald Trump just need to get to know each other. They need to figure out, how does he prefer to get his information? And once they know that, they can tailor it to him.
Exactly. So here is my idea. His staff should feed the intel to Brian Kilmeade and Steve Doocy. Because we know the first thing that Trump does is watch Fox and Friends.
Here we go.
So he gets up in the morning, and you got Kilmeade and Doocy going. So you hear what ISIS is doing right now? They're right now. They're right on the edge.
they're moving on the Turkish border.
They're moving on the
The Kurds are pulling back.
The Kurds, and it's like Trump's going, "This is good stuff."
What is Ainsley doing?
I know. What about Ainsley?
I forgot about Ainsley.
Well, Ainsley could start off the show by saying, "No change today."
No change today.
No new information. information.
I'm hearing the
necessary.
same thing.
But he's up to date. He's up to date. That's the solution.
Here's the thing, Eric. I think that a lot of people in the intelligence community voted for Donald Trump. And so if they could just work out how he likes to get his briefings, then he'll be able to pick up on the nuance of what they're saying.
So call me crazy. I want him to read the briefings. I just read the darn thing. It's like in the morning you get a rundown of the news wheel. It's like sometimes it's 25 pages. But you do it because you don't want to be, oh, there's something on page 14 that ends up bubbling up to the top.
Nuance.
And I don't know how the briefing is structured. Is it bullet points? Is it with the data behind it? But at least
depends on how the president wants it.
The good news is
tailor it.
Mike Pence is apparently reading every single word of every single briefing. And as we know, Donald Trump has relied on the very capable and able Mike Pence. So it's not like we're out there going, gee, I hope this all works out. One of the two is always going to be reading the briefing.
There's always a danger, Kimberly,
Yes.
that both sides, Republicans and Democrats, try to politicize the intelligence community to suit them. And the intelligence community doesn't want to be politicized. For the most part, I understand that they have leaned left. Some people on the left think they've leaned right. I get all of those things, but you're dealing with human beings who are just doing their best.
No, absolutely. And what they need to do is like tailor make it so that this is something that the president-elect feels comfortable with. It's going to suit his schedule. He's a busy man. He's doing a lot of things. He's making sure, and it shows the trust and reliability he has on Mike Pence. And if something, of course, is urgent and needs like immediate eyes on target, he's going to do it. So I think this is something that we're going to see kind of go away as a problem, because what about those? I mean, don't be hypocritical. President Obama does not sit in for his briefings. He prefers to get his on an iPad in an abbreviated form that way.
What do you think of that? Because President Obama has taken some heat from the right, saying, why didn't you get your presidential daily brief, and all indignant,
Right.
and now you have this.
Yeah, and I think that maybe none of us should be like freaking out in this large way. Not that anyway, this table's doing that.
No, we're very, very
we're all good. But the larger public community, to your point, if this wasn't playing out so publicly, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I think when you have earned the right to sit in the Oval, you get your information the way you want to. I think that's fine. I think there's an easy fix here, right? I think Donald Trump can say, don't give me repetitive information, but every single day get something with anything that's changed, no matter how slight or nuanced, because with the rapid way this stuff is changing, as we all know, every day it can be a different vantage point.
So I heard of Michael Hayden actually on MSNBC this morning talking about that presidential briefing, and the reason why it is repetitive because you want to build a history, you want to build a history, and so I think rather than eliminating the stuff that was repetitive, leave it in there, but just figure out a way that's really highlighted.
Bold
hey,
and highlighted.
This is new. This other stuff you've read
development.
before, but this stuff is new, and this is something we need to get to.
Like
Or
a news alert, right
have
at the
somebody
top.
entertaining that you like read it to you.
Well,
you
no,
can
that-
get anybody in America.
Like I read
monologue.
to
You
you.
can- the monologue
Yes,
every day.
Exactly.
But you could.
House.
The other thing is that
Like
he
every
could do,
Tuesday
if they want to
sometime.
see him every day, one of the things he could do is say, all right, bring me something on Tanzania tomorrow. I'd love to learn a little bit more. Give me 5 minutes on Tanzania, your best. And they will do it. They'll provide it to him. I don't know.
Scott
I'm
Baio.
not picking on Tanzania.
thing is-
Scott Baio should do it.
I love
But the
Tanzania.
I love
president-elect is a
Scott Baio.
famous multitasker, so he's capable of doing a lot of things. You know, with 12 people following him, waiting for a decision, waiting for an answer. That's how you become a billionaire. Making all these decisions worldwide, trying to go through, and he's specific about wanting to make those choices himself. So work with that and have it set up so it works into the flow of when you can present the information, go over it. And I think once he gets his transition team, hopefully there's going to be even more focus.
Well,
on
and then
this.
there will be a decision on who the briefer is going to be, and that would be fun to watch if I were behind the scenes, which I won't be. Ahead, President-elect Trump responds to concerns about his decision to remain executive producer of The Celebrity Apprentice. He says it's not a conflict of interest. Hear why when the 5 returns.
Celebrity Apprentice returns to TV next month after a 2-year hiatus with a new host, Arnold Schwarzenegger. The last host is about to become our next president. And there's some controversy over Mr. Trump's decision to retain an executive producer credit on the show. Chris Wallace asked him about it on Fox News Sunday.
You're keeping your stake in Celebrity Apprentice. According to the New York Times, you're going to shift operations, but you're going to keep your stake in your real estate business.
Well, essentially, I'm not going to have anything to do with the management.
I know,
of the
but isn't that a
company.
huge conflict of interest, sir?
When I ran, everybody knew that I was a very big owner of real estate all over the world. I mean, I'm not going to have anything to do with the management of the company. I don't care about it anymore. I'm so focused on doing a great job as president.
And Mr. Trump clarified on Twitter that he'll have nothing to do with Celebrity Apprentice when he's president. He is going to devote zero time. He'll only have a stake in it. All right, Bowling, so what do you make about this? People are upset because it's going to say when you watch this show, executive producer, POTUS /
Right. Remember we talked about this on Friday? If you watch the either beginning or end of a movie, there's like 20 executive producer credits. Most of those people are some sort of investors in the movie. There's probably 1 or 2 total real producers of the movie. And this is the thing that Donald Trump has a right to is this is his intellectual property. He developed this show.
The idea.
Yeah,
right.
Conceived, developed it, made it big, made it great again. And he shouldn't have to walk away from it. Whether he wants a credit on it, okay, so he wants a credit on it. But there's clearly an opportunity for him to keep his name there without having a thing to do with the production of the show. And I guess the assumption is that if he were more involved or if he went awry, he could use it to hold over NBC's head to say, hey, I'm producer of this show. You need to get this message out more or this will happen. But he has no intention of doing that.
Right. All right, Dana, how do you see this?
I think that he would have zero time, even if he wanted to dedicate any time to working on Celebrity Apprentice. Plus, think about President Obama and his book that did extremely well. He continued to get royalties while he was president of the United States. And I sort of see this in the same way. I don't know if the legal counsel would see that in the same way, but that's how I think about this.
They've checked it out. I mean, look, he did create it, as Bowling said. He's entitled to have his name on it and to receive the proceeds of it. I mean, why not?
I figured just bring it into the White House. Like I said on Friday, the winner gets a job on staff, and the losers are buried in Michelle's herb garden.
Buried.
No one will miss him.
Was he anything good to eat there?
And by the way, Arnold Schwarzenegger, they should add like a separate segment, like who will he impregnate?
Oh, you know, why do you have to ruin my blog?
He loves this show, too, by the way.
Five?
He's a big fan of the Five.
Well, I'm not surprised why.
I took a picture with him.
He likes me, right?
Yeah.
I took a picture with him with Ronan. It was Ronan and Conan. It was very cute. All right, so what do you make of this?
All right, so I'm not bothered at all by this. Kind of to Eve's point, his intellectual, like this is a brand that Donald Trump really helped build from the ground up. So I don't think he should have to divorce himself. I think we all know kind of in this industry, EP doesn't really mean much of anything. You know, it kind of can just be in title only, and that part's fine. Dana, personally, I don't see it exactly as when President Obama continued to collect the royalties from the book, only because this is, you know, kind of a very direct kind of media correlation. And you could make the argument that if Trump wanted to exercise that in a different way, he could. I'm not at all suggesting that he'll do that.
Right.
That's the only distinction I'll make.
I agree.
Yeah, but ultimately, I'm not at all. But I think this is like so low on my concern list around anything that President-elect Trump is doing. Totally unbothered, as the kids say.
Okay, so we don't, and nobody really sees this as any problem. Greg, you're just jealous because you want an EP credit.
Yes, I want an EP. I haven't. I don't know.
And Arnold wants an amendment so that he can actually run for president, right? Follow in the footsteps, like in the movie. Remember the movie?
Precedent has been set, I hear.
Precedent has been set. All right, looks like that's it for this. We've
I'm totally
resolved
just kidding.
Oh, my God, terrible. Bowling will be on it. Bowling will be on it next. Dana, is there anything else that he actually should be concerned about besides like this, leaving his name on a credit here? Is there anything you see?
Well, it depends. I mean, I don't know what. You never know what's going to happen in live TV or in a reality TV show. Will he want his name associated?
Isn't this story a dumb topic? Don't you think? Don't you feel like it's
we could have done better?
Yeah, it feels like we
we can blame for that.
Yeah,
our executive producer.
Nobody cares. I can tell that not a single person here cares strongly enough about this.
You know why? Because it's a nothing burger. You know, I mean, it's the only burger I don't want to eat. A nothing burger. Next, a left-wing California professor caught on tape bashing our president-elect to her students. The stunning video when the Five returns.
So you came.
So a human sexuality professor at Orange Coast College in California is not too pleased that Donald Trump is our new president. She made that very clear to her students last month. Olga Perez-Staplecox went on a tirade about the president-elect, I hate you, Greg, following the vote, calling him a, quote, white supremacist, among other things. A student even taped it. Here's the video.
Our nation is divided. We have been assaulted. It's an act of terrorism. One of the most frightening things for me and most people in my life is that the people committing the assault are among us. It's not some stranger from some other country.
She equated Mr. Trump's election to terrorism. The school's Young Republican Club has filed a formal complaint. They want an apology from that professor. Okay, so I want to note that we did reach out to the school to see if there was comment from the professor or the school itself, and thus we
Did you reach out to Stablecox?
Greg? You're on punishment.
Can
You're
I point out
actually on timeout.
that the teacher who teaches a human sexuality course, her name is Stablecox?
Okay, Eric Bolin. I have to move on.
Eye contact.
Okay, in all attempts of seriousness, right?
So, okay, what was the name of this course? Not
Human sexuality. Human sexuality.
Is this what we're teaching our kids in college?
Yes.
I mean, my son called me today, literally today. He's got a final, and it was talk to a family member about an event that was profound in American history that they experienced, and went through the 9/11 thing. And he wrote a nice paper on what 9/11 was and how it affected millions of Americans' lives and how it affected my life and whatnot. But this one decides that voting through the legal, the process, the constitutional process of electing Donald Trump somehow is terrorism?
Yeah, that part of it was really problematic for me, bothersome on a kind of emotional level. I just was standing on the border of Israel and Syria, and I was, like with landmines and, with this woman who works at the school, rockets are coming over every day, and they are a threat to her life. So, there's real terrorism, right?
Can I just throw this one thought?
Yeah, so that was
what in the
problematic for me.
world does Donald Trump being considered terrorism have to do with human sexuality?
That's another thing. No, that's true, Dana, right? So, what about these kind of political tangents? Like, if you're in poli-sci, I understand having a conversation around this.
You can actually imagine that throughout America's college campuses that the last 6 weeks or 4 weeks has been like group therapy. That it doesn't matter if you're supposed to be learning about physics, that you need your safe space to be able to talk about the election. It doesn't matter if it doesn't have anything to do with the subject matter that she's supposed to be teaching. And the other thing is the left runs this risk of watering down words like terrorism.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah,
that's a real problem. Greg, no.
Wait,
no, never mind, Greg.
I just want to point out a couple things. Number one, Stablecox.
You just wanted to say it again.
No,
go ahead.
They're going to punish the student. They're going to punish the student from recording this. Do you know that? That he could be charged because it's illegal to. Yeah. So he's an authentic whistleblower who's now getting the whistle blown on him. And you know that this teacher would have a real problem with calling real terror actual terror. She'd call it like radical revolution against the powers that be. But she has Trump hysteria disorder, and you're going to see that a lot. She's unstable, Cox.
Kimberly Guilfoyle. Counselor Guilfoyle.
It's not my fault her name's Stablecox.
Okay.
All right?
I actually didn't know that the student was going to be punished for recording it. Is that a thing?
Well, I mean, they can, depending on what the laws are there. But the thing that is interesting to me here is that the Young Republicans, they actually have a lawyer that's going to file a lawsuit. They're trying to gather enough evidence because they said that they felt intimidated and threatened to express their personal opinions. So we're seeing, one of these type of cases going forward to say, hey, this is an abridgment of their free speech and their ability to be in an environment and not feel threatened. So let's see how it goes.
That makes sense to me. I actually don't like that any student wouldn't be able to film something, because if we're going to have cameras with our police, which I think is a good thing, why not have them with our educators? I mean, if we're going
I like people to be able to have a private conversation.
In the classroom, though?
Sure. If the teacher is doing something wrong, you should be able to, she asked the Trump supporters to stand up, right?
We didn't see that in that clip, but
they asked him to stand. I mean,
she's looking to intimidate.
She's looking to intimidate, and so somebody has to do that. I understand what you mean, that there should be some kind of privacy, but Stablecox lost her privacy.
Okay.
So I've
she
been
didn't get a
keeping
good rating
notes
on
of how many times you
ratemyprofessor.com.
That's how many times he got it out.
But Dana,
oh my God.
Dana, I don't mind private conversations, but we know from footage that we've seen teachers assault students and stuff like that. So I do think sometimes it comes in handy.
When the robots are here, we'll all be wearing cameras.
Yeah, we saw President Obama and that administration, people using Title IX to try to suppress speech that they disagreed with. So this is quite interesting.
Oh, what a slippery, slippery slope we do find ourselves on. One More Thing is up next.
Well, I learned about a new tradition, a Christmas tradition. Always looking to add some. This is from Iceland. And I really liked it. They have this tradition of giving books on Christmas Eve, and then you stay up all night reading the book. And that's kind of cool,
this is right up your alley.
So we all have gifts that we could all give, but I chose two that I would give away this year. One I loved, it's a novel called The Snow Child by Eowyn Ivey. It's a little bit fantasy, but fiction is absolutely beautiful book. And then another one by Siobhan Evans, You Know When the Men Are Gone, which is about a deployment at Fort Hood, and she's a military wife. I'm sorry, Siobhan Fallon, excuse me, is her name.
Get it right.
Well, she got married.
Okay.
Whatever. But her family watches, and I think that book was
Very
absolutely
nice.
amazing. She has a new one coming out this year.
You know what the cool thing about that tradition is? You don't have to use the lights because it stays light.
Ah, see, that's
No, it's dark there.
Oh, well, then you have to use extra lights.
In the summer.
Can you tell
figure out
we're
which
not
one.
trusted to do the weather around here? Okay.
all right.
First, before we do one more thing very quickly, wish a congratulations to John Roberts, Fox News' brand new chief White House correspondent. Well earned, John. Congratulations. That is a big gig, by the way, because you're on camera quite a bit following
Wow,
the
wow,
And he's
wow.
experienced because he had that job before.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good job, John.
fantastic. He's a great guy. I'm glad
So
to
for my one more thing, very quickly, over the weekend, Louisiana put in the final numbers for the final Senate seat in America. John Kennedy defeated Foster Campbell. That puts a Republican there. Balance of power goes to 52-48. This is big because with 51-49, you get that extra Senate seat, especially during confirmations. Big. That was a big win. Congratulations to Louisiana. What? House 241-194, and then this with the governors we talked about, 33, 1 independent and 16. The balance of power is clearly leaning right.
By the way, bye-bye about the Wisconsin recount because Trump picked up 162 more votes. That worked out well for you people.
Yeah. How much money per vote did that cost?
Seriously.
All right, Ebony.
Okay, so as I've said several times now, I just came back from a truly life-changing week in Israel and really toured the entire country. It was incredible. So I wanted to share just a couple of, I have so many moments, but just a couple. So first you're going to see here, this is a photo of the group, and I went with the American Israel Education Foundation. It's the educational branch of AIPAC, and as you see, we just casually ran into Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and that was awesome, and we were able to speak to many people at the Senate. Here you go, in the spirit of keeping it fair and balanced, we're meeting with Dr. Saeed Erekat, and he is actually the chief negotiator for the Palestinian Authority. So we actually went into Kamala and were able to speak with him. It was incredible, get his take. Here you're seeing, this is Rabbi Levy and his beautiful wife Paula. They invited us all into their home for Shabbat dinner.
All right, Ebony, gotta go. That's it for us.
Excellent.
Special report
Proud
up
of you.
next.